is to just leave the government's motion pending and then see if the Ninth Circuit gives me the green light or the red light, and then act appropriately at that time. First, let me turn to the government for your thoughts.
Your Honor, we would still request remand, but what Your Honor is proposing is akin to the government's alternative prayer for relief, which is to take guidance from what the Ninth Circuit does. If the court holds the government's motion in abeyance, then I think that we would certainly advise the court, if the Ninth Circuit denied the stay request, and would repeat our request then at that time that the court remand Mr. Toledo to custody.
All right, thank you. Let me hear from the defense.
Your Honor, I think that plan sounds appropriate. From a defense standpoint, Dr. Toledo is neither a flight risk. Whether the circuit grants his stay or whether it doesn't, we maintain that he should not be surrendered unless the Peruvian authorities are in the country and prepared to take him into custody, as is consistent with the position of pretrial. But we are perfectly fine coming back to court when the Ninth Circuit's made a decision as well.
Well, let me pick up on two things you said just now. One is you don't want him to be remanded until Peruvian authorities are in the country and prepared to take him. How will I know if that's the case?
Your Honor, I think we could work, I think the government could certainly keep the court abreast of when the Peruvian authorities intend to come here. If the Ninth Circuit were to deny the stay and the filing in the DC Circuit not result in some sort of injunctive relief, I think the government would move quickly in concert with the Peruvian authorities. Certainly they'd have to make arrangements for their lodging, for their flight, and I think they could alert all the parties quickly as to when they plan to arrive in the United States. At that juncture, if we were to find out, well, the Peruvian authorities will be here on, a specific date on Tuesday, perhaps Dr. Toledo's remand into custody the evening before would be appropriate, but we'd ask that the court wait until that time before remanding him. And even in an ideal world, Dr. Toledo would take himself to the marshal's office and be prepared to surrender there or surrender at the airport, wherever appropriate. But we'd ask that the surrender not take place until that time.
Well, let me ask the government to respond.
Oh, go ahead. Mr. Toledo.
Yeah, we did seem to lose him.
Oh, no. Your Honor, perhaps I can call him and see if he's amenable to waiving his appearance for the remaining of the hearing. That might make things more technologically feasible, but if...
Okay. Look, here she...
Did it come again? Okay.
Dr. Toledo, you just have to hit the little icon, the camcorder, so that we can see you.
Okay.
All right, there we go. Got him back. Good. I wanted, before I pick up on another thing you said, I wanted to turn to the government and get your view. As you can see, the defense is arguing for a very precise remand, that they would know the exact day when the handover is contemplated and they would want him remanded the evening before. Does the government think that a remand that precise is necessary? Or if the Ninth Circuit denies the stay, should I simply issue the warrant of commitment? And then it might take the Peruvian authorities a few days to get him, but how does the government think I should proceed?
We would request that the court adopt the latter approach. There are a couple of problems with going with the proposal that Mr. Toledo's attorneys have requested, which is, one, as a practical matter, the Peruvian authorities don't want to come here until they know that Mr. or Dr. Toledo is in custody. The second thing is, I think that there are some security concerns about staying, publicly when exactly the turnover is going to happen. I believe that the turnover will be very expeditious after Dr. Toledo is remanded to custody, but I don't think we can or should get into specifics as to the exact timing of when the Peruvian authorities will arrive and when they plan to leave. So that's the government's position with respect to the timing of the remand and the turnover.
Alrighty. Well, let me turn to the defense. I'm inclined to agree with the government in the event that the stay is denied. I don't think I should be micromanaging the secretary's handover to Peruvian authorities. And I do have some concern about the security concerns that the government has. I'll think about the issue some more, but forcing Peru to say exactly on what day they want to pick him up, that gets a little sensitive in my view. But do you want to respond further on that point, counsel?
Your Honor, I think at this juncture, perhaps the best thing to do would be to wait and see what the Ninth Circuit does in regards to a stay. I think there's perhaps a middle ground where maybe it doesn't have to be so precise as the specific day, but maybe it can be more precise than the possibility of leaving Dr. Toledo in custody for weeks or even more than a month. And perhaps this discussion is premature at this juncture because there is a possibility of a stay. And, you know, if that were to be the case, things could dramatically change.
My assumption, and I could be mistaken, I suppose, but my assumption is that if the Ninth Circuit denies the stay, Peru is going to want to act pretty fast. So how fast depends on them, but I think it would be quite unlikely that it would be weeks or months. They would like to wrap this up. The other issue that you've raised, and it's implicit in your comments, is that we need another hearing after the Ninth Circuit rules. Certainly if they grant the stay request, I'm not going to have another hearing because it could be months before something comes down from the Ninth Circuit. But if they deny the stay request, what would we need to talk about at the next hearing?
Your Honor, I think we'd like to get further clarification from the government on the, look into when Peru plans to come, how long they anticipate taking, and maybe get some more clarity. I think perhaps they will move very swiftly. I think they also have up to 2 months, if my understanding is correct. I think we'd want to evaluate Dr. Toledo's health at that juncture. I mean, they might deny a stay 2 or 3 months from now. It might not be within the week. In light of that, in light of not knowing exactly when they might come down with the decision, I think a further hearing would be appropriate, especially if it's not anytime soon.
Well, you're right that the Ninth Circuit decides for itself when it's going to rule on the stay request. The rest of us are just waiting for that decision, and it's up to them. I don't think I need another hearing if they deny the stay request. I would, if they did that, I would grant the motion and then order Toledo to surrender. If you wanted to talk with the government about the exact details of the handover, and that would depend on what information the government is willing to provide to you, I think you could just call them. I don't know that you would need me to be involved in that. You could just give Mr. Waldinger a call and see what he's willing to say. But let me ask the government, do you think if the Ninth Circuit denies the stay request that we need another hearing?
The government doesn't think we do, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, I'm of the view that we likely don't need another hearing either way. The Ninth Circuit will either green light this or red light it, and then I will act accordingly. But I don't think we need to get together again for another hearing once we've gotten the word from the Court of Appeals.
Your Honor, I did have one more point that I'd like to make regarding, if the court should decide we don't need another hearing. We do feel very strongly that Dr. Toledo should not be held in solitary confinement, and would like to make that point, that if the court were to grant the government's motion the second the Ninth Circuit decision came down, we would prefer that he be held in a facility where he is not in solitary confinement.
I'm not going to micromanage the jail. If the stay were denied and then I ordered Toledo into custody, that's a sensitive issue for the marshals to deal with. They have to balance security concerns and at that point diplomatic concerns to make sure that they protect his health. They can't just put him in the general population with accused murderers and drug dealers, because he's an elderly person and they need to make sure that he's safe. And I would defer to the jailers to use their best judgment about how to keep Dr. Toledo safe. And I understand that prolonged solitary confinement does have tolls, and did for Dr. Toledo earlier before I ordered his release. But they may have good information about how fast Peruvian authorities are able to get here, and it might not be a long time if they did decide to go to solitary confinement. But it's very important, if I end up remanding Dr. Toledo, that the jailers do what they can to make sure that he's safe in custody. And I'm going to defer to them on the best way to protect his safety. Is there anything else that the defense wanted to raise at this hearing today?
I don't think so, Your Honor, unless Ms. Goldman has anything to add.
I see that she's shaking her head no. So thank you, counsel. Anything else that the government would like to raise at today's hearing?
I don't believe so, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. And Mr. Granados, anything else that pretrial would like to discuss?
No, Your Honor. The defendant's been...
Your internet connection leaves a little bit to be desired. Could you try saying that again?
Major. I apologize. Nothing from pretrial.
Okay, thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you, counsel. The matter stands submitted. Have a good day.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, everyone. We're off the record in this matter, and court is in recess.
Recording stopped.